Ethan stepped off the shuttle, his boots pressing into the soft blue soil of Varela. The air was lighter here, and the sky above shimmered in soft lavender waves. He had seen many stars, visited many planets during his training, but this world felt different, quiet, peaceful, and almost magical. He looked around at the alien buildings. They were tall and curved, built with materials that glowed gently like starlight. Everything felt alive. Varelans believed in harmony, not only with each other, but with nature. It was beautiful, unlike anything Ethan had seen back on Earth. This was his first official assignment as a human researcher in the Galactic Peace Program. Earth had recently joined the United Alliance, and part of the agreement was sending humans to live and work with alien species. Ethan was one of the first. A tall figure approached him. She had silver blue skin that sparkled in the light and long glowing strands like hair flowing down her back. Her eyes were wide and soft, almost like pools of light. She smiled gently and bowed her head. "I am Ayara," she said in perfect English, though her voice sounded like music. "You will work with me in the Environmental Studies Dome." Ethan smiled, trying not to stare. "Nice to meet you, Ayara. I'm Ethan." They walked together through the glowing city. Ayara spoke little, but her presence was calm. She didn't speak with loud words. Her silence said more than conversation. Ethan found it peaceful. When they reached the dome, Ethan was amazed. Inside was a living forest, protected under a glass ceiling. Strange flowers moved slowly like they were breathing, and trees sparkled with soft blue leaves. Ayara touched a plant gently. "These are our memory trees," she said. "They hold the feelings of those who touch them." Ethan blinked. "Feelings," she nodded. "Not thoughts, not words, just emotions. We learn not only by studying, but by sharing what we feel." Ethan had never heard of such a thing. On Earth, data and logic ruled science. But here emotion was part of learning. For the next few days, Ethan worked with Ayara. They studied the dome, checked the health of plants, recorded data, and sometimes just sat and listened to the sounds of nature. He noticed how Ayara moved softly, slowly, like she respected every part of life around her. But what surprised Ethan most was how he began to look forward to seeing her each day. Her voice, her smile, the way she tilted her head when she didn't. Understand a human joke, it all made something warm grow in his chest. One evening, Ethan couldn't sleep. He walked alone to the dome, needing air, needing to think. As he entered, he saw Ayara sitting beneath a glowing tree, her head tilted toward the stars above. She didn't turn when he stepped closer. But then she spoke, her voice softer than usual. "Do you ever miss your home?" Ethan sat beside her. "Every day." "I wonder," she said, still looking at the sky, "what it feels like to be connected to someone." Ethan looked at her. "Don't you feel that with your people?" She paused. "We feel peace, unity, but not the kind of bond your music speaks of, not what your books show, not what your movies call love." Ethan's heart beat faster. "Why are you asking me this?" Yara finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were deep and glowing. "Because you're human. I want to understand what it means to love someone." For a long moment, they sat in silence, stars shining above and memory trees glowing around them. Ethan wanted to say something. He wanted to reach out, to tell her that maybe he was beginning to understand it too, but he said nothing. He only looked at her and knew, deep in his heart, that this was no longer just an assignment. He was falling for someone who wasn't even human. The next morning, Ethan walked into the dome earlier than usual. The memory of last night still played in his mind, Ira's voice. Her question and the way she looked at him with wonder in her glowing eyes. He found her near the crystal stream, humming a soft tune. It didn't sound like any earth music, but it made his heart feel calm. She noticed him and smiled, her face gentle and bright like morning light. "I want to show you something," she said, standing up. "If you are ready to learn?" Ethan nodded, curious. "Learn what?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, she led him to the center of the dome where a small tree stood. It was different from the others. Its leaves were golden, and its trunk shimmered like glass. Ayara placed her hand on it and closed her eyes. "This is a feeling tree," she said softly. "If we both touch it, we can share memories. Not pictures or sounds, just feelings." "Truth." Ethan hesitated. "It hurt." "No," Ayara replied with a smile. "But it may change you." He placed his hand next to hers on the bark. Soft pulse moved through his skin, warm and gentle. Then suddenly he felt things not from his own heart, but from hers. He felt her childhood, the wonder of floating lights in her village, the sadness when her first friend left for another world. He felt her loneliness, her desire to understand humans, and her confusion about emotions that virulins were not trained to speak of. Most of all, he felt her curiosity about him, how she noticed his laughter, his quiet eyes, the way he stared at the stars as if searching for something lost. The connection ended slowly, like a dream fading. Ethan pulled his hand back, his chest heavy but full. "That was ... he began, but couldn't find the words. Ayara looked at him with soft eyes. "Now, I understand why you smile when you're sad. Humans feel so much at once." It's like, wow. "Your hearts speak in many colors," Ethan chuckled, though a tear slid down his cheek. "You felt all that?" She nodded. "Would you show me more? Teach me what love means, not in books or science, but the way your heart knows it." That evening, Ethan brought his music player to the dome. He played her old Earth songs, gentle piano tunes, soft voices singing about love, loss, and hope. Ayara closed her eyes and listened, swaying like a leaf in the wind. "I feel this music inside me," she whispered. "Is this what humans call love?" Ethan looked at her glowing face. "It's a part of it, yes." She opened her eyes. "Then show me the rest." For days they shared more. He read her poetry and stories about brave hearts and quiet dreams. She took him into deeper parts of the dome, showing him plants that responded to mood and stars. That changed color based on feelings. They laughed. They listened. They sat in silence. And every moment, the space between them grew smaller. One night, as they lay on the soft grass beneath the dome's glass ceiling, Ayara whispered, "I have never connected with anyone like this before. Not even my own kind." Ethan turned his head to face her. "Me neither." She looked at him, her voice like a soft breeze. "What does it feel like to love someone you're not supposed to?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked up, the stars above, and felt her hand resting gently near his. "It feels brave and a little scary," he said. "But it also feels right." Ayara's smile was quiet, but her eyes sparkled like the stars. And in that moment, without speaking, the words they both knew, they were falling into something real, even if the universe didn't understand it yet. Ethan's heart felt light every time he walked toward the dome. The days with Ayara had changed him. It wasn't just friendship anymore. It was something deeper. He didn't need to say the word. He could feel it, and he knew she did too. But peace doesn't always last when love begins to bloom in the wrong place. One morning, a message arrived from the Virulon Council. It was formal and cold. Ethan was summoned for a private meeting. Inside the tall silver building, he sat before 3 glowing Virulons who did not smile. "We have received reports," one of them said. "You are developing an emotional attachment." With Ayara, Ethan blinked. "She's my research partner." "Shh. She is more than that," the second voice replied. "We have seen the recordings. Your presence in the dome, the touching of the feeling tree. This is not part of your scientific duties." Ethan tried to stay calm. "We're just learning from each other." The third voice, soft but firm, said, "Emotional bonding between virulons and humans is not accepted. It is not ... natural." Ethan left the meeting feeling like his chest was filled with ice. He walked slowly back to the dome, unsure of what to do. When he arrived, Ayara was waiting near the glowing lake, her face still and quiet. "You spoke to them?" she said gently. Ethan nodded. "They said we're not allowed to be close." Ayara looked down at her hands. "I knew this would happen. I hoped they would not see." "Do you want to stop?" Ethan asked. His voice was low. Part of him didn't want to hear her answer. "I don't know," she whispered. "I only know that when I'm with you, I feel things I've never known before. Warmth, joy, even fear, but in a beautiful way. Ethan reached out, then stopped himself. Maybe we should stop seeing each other, at least for now. Ayara closed her eyes. Her shoulders trembled slightly. Maybe you're right. For the next few days, Ethan stayed away from the dome. He buried himself in reports, in numbers and charts. Oh, none of it made sense without her voice beside him. He kept thinking about her, how she smiled at music, how she wondered about love, how she made him feel less alone in a faraway world. Each night, he lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, missing her more than he thought was possible. Then one night, he couldn't take it anymore. He walked back to the dome, heart racing. The doors opened with a soft sound, and inside he found Ayara sitting by the lake again, the water reflecting stars and silence. I couldn't stay away, he said. She turned to him slowly. Neither could I. Ethan sat beside her. Ayara, you're not human, but I think I've fallen for you. Her eyes sparkled with emotion. I don't fully understand what falling in love means, but when you're near, I feel complete. When you're gone, I feel empty. They didn't speak for a while after that. They just sat in silence, letting the night hold their feelings. Around them, the trees pulsed softly with light, as if they, too, could feel the bond forming in the air. The rules were clear. Their bond was forbidden, but their hearts didn't follow rules. And in that moment, both knew they were crossing a line they couldn't return from, yet neither of them wanted to turn back. The days after that night were filled with both happiness and fear. Ethan and Ayara kept meeting in the dome, always careful, always quiet. They laughed softly, shared more music, and learned things about each other that couldn't be written in any report. But the truth was always there. It's like a shadow behind every moment. They were not supposed to be together. One afternoon, a message came from the Earth Embassy. Ethan opened it with trembling hands. The words were clear. Return to base immediately. You are under review for protocol violation. He read the message twice. His throat tightened. They knew. He walked through the glowing city with heavy steps. When he entered the dome, Ayara turned and saw his face. She knew something was wrong. They've called me back, Ethan said quietly. They want me off this planet. Ayara looked down. 'Cause of me? No, he said quickly. Because of us. 'Cause they think love between species is dangerous? That it's wrong. Ayara stood silently for a moment. Then she walked to the center of the dome and placed her hand on a memory tree. The soft light spread through the leaves. I knew this might happen, she whispered, but I still chose to feel. Ethan walked closer. Then come with me. Leave this place. Come to Earth. Ayara's glowing eyes widened. I've never left my planet. I wouldn't survive there not the way you do. We'll find a way, Ethan said. You're not just a Virulon. You're a Yara. You matter to me more than anything. She turned away, her voice low. If I go, I will never be allowed to return. And if you stay, you may lose your place among your people. I don't care, he said. I don't care about the program, or the rules, or the councils. I care about you. Ayara stepped close, just inches from him. Her voice trembled. You would leave your world for me. Ethan looked into her glowing eyes. Yes. She reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was warm and soft, not so different from his. Then maybe, she said, we are not so different after all. They stood like that for a while, surrounded by the quiet sounds of the dome. The glowing plants, the soft wind, the feeling of something bigger than both of them. But when the sky darkened, Ethan knew time was running out. His shuttle would arrive soon. He turned to her. I need to go pack my things. Ayara nodded. I will wait here. As Ethan walked away, his heart felt like it was being pulled in two directions. Earth was his home. But Ayara had become something. More a light in his lonely life, voice that made the silence beautiful. When he reached his quarters, he sat on the bed, his hands shaking. He looked out the window at the stars and whispered, what do I do now? Then he remembered Ayara's words. Maybe we were meant to meet to change both our worlds. He stood up slowly, didn't need to think anymore. He knew his choice. He was going back to her. Ethan stood at the window of his room, watching the sky turn soft purple as Varella's twin suns disappeared behind the hills. The message from Earth was final. His mission was over. He had one bag packed. Just a few clothes, some notes, and his music player. But the most important thing wasn't in the bag. It was still waiting in the dome, watching stars and dreaming in silence. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed thinking about her. Every time she smiled, every time she hummed a song she didn't understand but still felt in her heart, he remembered how she had asked, "What does love feel like when you're not supposed to feel it?" Now he knew the answer. It felt like pain, but it also felt like hope. That night, he couldn't sleep. He opened his notebook and began writing everything he had learned, not just about the plants in the dome, but about her, about how virulins might not show love the way humans did, but Ayara had shown it in her own way in quiet moments, in soft touches and glowing eyes that never looked away from his. When he finished, he closed the notebook and held it tight. Morning came quickly. The sky brightened, and a soft knock came at his door. It was the transport officer. "Your shuttle is ready," Ethan nodded, his heart heavy. The shuttle stood waiting on the landing pad. Other humans were there, some shaking his hand, others simply watching. They didn't know his story. They only knew he had broken a rule. But before stepping aboard, Ethan looked up at the glass dome in the distance. He ran, past the buildings, past the silent trees, past the confused voices calling after him. He reached the dome, breathless, and stepped inside. Ayara was there, sitting by the water again. She didn't turn, but she spoke. "I thought you were gone. I couldn't leave," Ethan said. "Not like this." She finally looked at him. "You made your choice." "Yes," he said, "and I chose you." Her eyes softened. "But your people, I wrote about us," he said, pulling out his notebook. "Not just you and me, but what we learned, what we felt. Maybe Earth won't listen, maybe they'll be angry, but someone will read it, someone will understand." Ayara touched the book gently. "You believe they will change?" "I believe love can change anything," Ethan said. She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Then I will wait. Even if it takes years, I will wait." Ethan smiled sadly. "I'll come back." They stood close, not touching, but there, feelings flowing like quiet light between them. He turned to go, and she whispered, "Don't forget me." "I couldn't," he said, "even if I tried." The shuttle took off, leaving the dome and the glowing world behind. Rella shrank. Below him, Ethan looked out the window. He pressed his hand against the glass, as if reaching for something far away, but still close in his heart. Back on Earth, Ethan did not return to his old job. He gave his notebook to the Peace Council. At first, they laughed. But slowly, word spread. Scientists read it. Artists read it. People cried. People wrote letters. People asked questions. Months passed, then a year. And one day, in a secure data stream, Ethan received a message. Just 3 words. "I miss you," he smiled with. Tears in his eyes because he knew she was still there waiting, and so was he. A year passed on Earth, but for Ethan, every day felt longer than the last. He went through his routine, but his heart remained somewhere far away, in a dome under violet skies, where memory trees whispered and a soft voice once asked, "What does it feel like to love someone you're not supposed to?" The message Ayara had sent, "I miss you," was saved on every device he owned. He read it again and again. It was only 3 words, but they held an entire universe. One afternoon, a message from the United Alliance arrived. It wasn't about punishment. It was something else. "Your report has been reviewed. We invite you to join a cultural ambassador. Program for Earth-Viola relations. You'll return to Viorella as our representative if you accept." Ethan sat in silence, reading the message over and over. They were sending him back. Not as a researcher this time, but as someone who had lived something real. Someone who had felt what diplomacy papers couldn't explain. He didn't pack much. Just his music player, the notebook, and one picture of Earth. The shuttle took off. And as the blue planet disappeared below, Ethan closed his eyes. He whispered, "I'm coming back, Ayara." Irella's skies welcomed him like a dream he once left behind. The silver towers still glowed and the forests still breathed with gentle light. The moment he stepped onto the soil again, the memories flooded back, every sound, every smell, every step. But Ayara wasn't at the landing pad. She wasn't in the dome either. He looked everywhere. The trees responded to his presence, glowing softly, but her voice was missing. He asked around, but no one gave a clear answer. Some Virulans looked at him with respect, others with quiet fear. Perhaps his return stirred emotions they weren't used to feeling. Each day, he walked the paths they once shared. He touched the memory trees, hoping she had visited them. He even played her favorite earth music in the dome, hoping she would hear, but still, no Ayara. One evening, Ethan stood at the edge of the forest near the dome, where the trees thinned, and the sky looked wider. He watched the sun set to sun slowly melting into the hills. His heart ached. Maybe she moved on, he whispered. Maybe she forgot. A soft voice behind him replied, "I could never forget." Ethan turned around sharply. Ayara stood there, her glow softer now, her eyes even deeper than he remembered. He stepped forward slowly, afraid she might vanish like a dream. "You're here?" She nodded. "I waited, but I was told not to disturb. Your mission. So I watched. From far away. I didn't know if you would come." Ethan took her hands in his, warm and familiar. "I came back because of you, because I believed what we had mattered." Her voice trembled. It did, and it still does. They stood there, hand in hand, surrounded by the glowing forest. The silence between them was full, not empty. It held every word they never said and every feeling they both carried across time and space. "I don't know what the future holds," Ethan said, "but I know where my heart belongs." Ayara smiled, and her eyes glistened like stars. "Then, let's walk into that future together." Ethan and Ayara stood side by side beneath the glowing trees. The world around them had changed, but what they felt remained the same, strong, quiet, and real. It wasn't just love between two people. It was something greater, a message. Spark. In the weeks that followed, Ethan returned to his work not as a scientist, but as a bridge between two worlds. Ayara worked beside him, just as she had before, but now there was no hiding, no fear. Their bond was known. At first, many questioned it. Some humans said it was strange. Some Virulans said it was dangerous. But others were curious. About how a human and a Virulan could care so deeply. Despite being different in body, voice, and world, Ethan gave speeches. He showed his notebook, played music. Ayara loved her songs, full of longing and hope. Ayara shared her memories. Through the feeling trees, together, they told their story, not with perfect answers, but with honesty. One day, young Virulan asked Ayara, "Do you feel more human now?" Ayara smiled. "Oh, but I feel something that connects me to them. I feel love, like a human child." Once asked Ethan, "Isn't it weird to love someone not like you?" He laughed gently. "Maybe. But love isn't always easy to explain. Sometimes it just happens. And when it does, it teaches us something important." More visitors came to Varela. More domes opened for cultural exchange. Humans and Virulans studied side by side. Children from both races painted together, shared meals, and sang in two languages. One night, Ethan and Ayara sat by the glowing lake in the dome, the same place they had first spoken about love. "It feels like a dream," Ayara whispered. "It does," Ethan said, "but it's real. You made it real." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Do you ever wish I was human?" He shook his head. "No. I fell in love with you not because you were like me, but because you weren't." Tears formed in her eyes, but they glowed like light, not sadness. "And I loved you," she said, "because you made me feel something I didn't know I was missing." They leaned against each other, heart to heart, though their hearts beat in different rhythms. The stars above watched silently, shining on. A love that had crossed every line, every wall, every rule. Time passed. The story of Ethan and Ayara was never forgotten. It became more than just a tale. It became a lesson in every school, a song in every corner of both worlds. And even as more years went by, new faces arrived, the dome where it all began remained open, alive with stories. Visitors still saw the memory trees, and if they placed their hands on the golden bark, some said they could feel it, a quiet warmth, a whisper of music, and a glowing smile that said, "She wasn't human, but I fell in love anyway," and it was enough.